wife's a teacher here in Twin Falls. She teaches at Bickle. And she teaches first grade, and so I go to her class quite a bit. Whenever I'm at Bickle, I stick my head in, and so over the course of the year, the kids get to know me pretty well. And I walked in, now this was last spring, and I walked in and I said, I saw a little girl that I hadn't seen before, and I kind of pointed at her and I said, "Who's she?" to my wife, and my wife said, "She's new." And about that time, she just boldly walked up to me and said, "Who are you?" And I said, "Well, I'm Mr. Dobbs." And she pointed back at my wife and said, "Oh, that's something my dad taught me." And that was, he said, when you're picking your career, back when I was in high school and thinking I knew everything, he said, pick a good one, because it'll add 5 days to every week of your life. You know, you're either going to be working and hoping for Saturday and Sunday to come, or you're going to enjoy the week before Saturday and Sunday comes. So I listened to him. I probably acted like I didn't listen to him at that time, because that's what teenagers. Failure is not a bad thing. In fact, I don't really look at most things as failures. Like, for example, an F on a test. I don't look at that as a failure if a student goes back over the test, learns the material, maybe even retakes the test, and learns that which was on the test. That just took an extra step or two than the student who got the good grade on the test. You know, I fail a lot during a day. I mean, not everything goes exactly the way I want it to go or as I planned, but I think one of the things I learned in martial arts, that, you know, since you and I have that in common, one of the things I learned in martial arts is perseverance and not quitting. I had an opportunity in 1980 to train at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And one of the senseis, or one of the coaches there, one of the Olympic coaches, name was Ben Nighthorse Campbell. And Ben Nighthorse Campbell later went on to be the first United States senator who was Native American. And so this was before he became famous that way. But at that time he was very famous because he was an Olympian. He had been on the Olympic judo team, had actually carried the American flag in the Tokyo Olympics in 1964. So he was quite famous to those of us who were in judo, you know, and he was our coach. And I hung around him, and literally when he would stop, I would bump into him because I was following him all over the place and listening to everything he had to say. And one time I said, well, what is it, what do you suggest I do to take my judo to a higher level, to be a little more successful? And he looked at me and he thought about it for a few minutes, and he said, judo. And then he turned around and walked away. And so I thought, you know, that makes a lot of sense, because I think sometimes the best answers are the simplest answers. If you want to get better in judo, do more judo. Practice longer, harder, smarter. If you want to get better in something, you know, certainly there are things that can augment that. Running helps me stay in shape, or helped me stay in shape when I was a competitor. But ultimately, if I wanted to be better in judo, I needed to practice judo. So that's something that's helped me. For one mistake that I see that leads to some levels of failure is a lack of organization. For example, very few students who are highly organized in their approach to their homework, to being to class, you know, they're being prepared as they come to class. Very few students in that category do poorly in school. Also, teachers. I've noticed that it's very rarely that we lose a teacher because of their knowledge of a subject. That's always been there as far as I've seen. But organization or the lack of planning for a class, that's where we see failure on the part of some of our teachers. So I think probably a mistake that I see made often by people who are less successful is just that work that goes into being prepared to do the work you need to do, whether it be teaching, whether it be learning, whether it be any of the other professions.
The choosing not to prepare, it has a price tag.
I always feel like I can do better. So maybe that might be the answer, is that I'm not very egotistical. I know I can get better. I make mistakes. I do learn from them. One thing I can assure you, and I think people pick up on it, is that I care deeply about my profession and my job, the kids I work with, the teachers who are in our district, the organization that's called the Twin Falls School District. I have a very deep love for what I do, and so I think that helps.